Happy Wednesday, Vikings fans, and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Latest. I'm your host, Cole Smith, and today we're going to talk about some more Jake Golday tape. I grinded another game film of him. We're going to go over ESPN's power rankings and how they are also not fans of the Vikings. And also, we get Jonathan Greenard speaking about his exit with the Vikings and why he is still excited about Dallas Turner. But first, we're going to start with some more updates on the Juwan Jennings front, where Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated he talked about potential free agent options across the league, and in doing so, he touched on the guy that has been attached to the Vikings for the past like 2 weeks. So he spoke about how he kind of labeled the remaining free agents. He kind of placed them all in five different bins, and he placed Juwan Jennings. He was the first guy he talked about in like the first bin of a player who may have overshot their market. That's what he quoted it with. So he had Jennings saying that he expected like wide receiver two money. Last week when we talked about this, I said that the projected money going into free agency for Juwan Jennings was like 22 million, which is like way too expensive. So I expect that he's trying to come down from that, or he's forced to come down from that at this point. Now that the first, second, and third waves of free agency are over and done with, and we've already gotten past the draft, he's not going to be getting 22 million. And if the Vikings were willing to pay that, I'd be very confused why they wouldn't have just brought back Jalen Naylor. So anyway, uh, so that's why Jawan Jennings is still on the market. I don't know if it's super surprising, but I don't know if he's still like, gung ho about making anywhere near wide receiver two money. He might just have to swallow his pride there. He is going to be 29 when the season starts, so that doesn't mean his career's over. But whatever he wanted, it's probably just too much. He's never had 1,000 yards in a season, so he's going to have to come off of that. Fortunately for the Vikings, Juwan Jennings hasn't signed with anybody else. So something to keep in mind. Maybe seeing something like this makes him second guess why he's asking for so much money. Maybe the Vikings are the ones who kind of tried getting this put out there to where the public perception kind of forces Jennings to kind of have to come down from that price. But I also found it interesting that he also labeled the second bin as older guys who might not need or want to go to OTAs, who aren't quite what they once were, but could pounce if a team came knocking. And he labeled Albert Breer labeled Jadavian Clowney and Joey Bosa as two of these guys, among others, in this category. And we've been talking about yesterday. We talked about how edge rusher is another hole for the Vikings, not specifically for starters, where wide receiver three is basically a starter in my mind in the current NFL offenses, especially Kevin O'Connell's. But edge rusher, now that Jonathan Greenard is gone, we'll talk about him in a minute. That's kind of an opening where Dallas Turner and Andrew Van Ginkel are starting, but like behind them, it's just Bo Richter, it's Tyler Batty, it's Chaz Chambliss, like three guys who are probably going to be at best, uh, very fringe rotational guys, probably going to be best at special teams. I wouldn't be banking on them to be like anything close to a reliable edge three guy in 2026. So that made me think that the Vikings should go after some free agent. Alec Lewis mentioned that, a free agent. So Jadavion Clowney and Joey Bosa were both listed, not by specifically for the Vikings. We talked about Clowney potentially being somebody the Vikings could potentially get, former number one overall pick. But Joey Bosa, he also has former top 10 first round status as well. Not going to be quite as dynamic in the pass coverage game as even Jonathan Greenard could be. These guys are just going to be kind of coming off the bench just to rush the passer, and there is a spot on this team for that. So we keep talking about wide receiver three, but I do think edge three, if anybody actually refers to it as that, is an underrated position of need for the Vikings still as the summer approaches, OTAs, mini camps, and all of that. start to play out. And that doesn't really surprise me that guys like that are still on the market. This happens all the time where older players, yeah, they don't want to go to camp. I don't really blame them. Somebody comes knocking, give 15, 20 pass rush snaps a game, helps everybody out in the long run. And they've seen the NFL game. They know what to expect. They can be professionals to come on in and do that. So Jadeveon Clowney, Joey Bosa, keep an eye on maybe one of them potentially being, coming to the Vikings, being that third edge rusher for them and bringing a veteran presence. So that's going to take us to Jonathan Greenard, who appeared on Chris Long's show called Green Light now. I think that's what Chris Long calls it. And Greenard kind of shed light on his trade, why he got traded during draft weekend. And it's not like anybody was super surprised that he was going to say this, but he did hype up Dallas Turner, and that Turner was kind of the reason that the trade was kind of accelerated. Uh, Turner was drafted 2024, so the Vikings' second first round pick. He's 17th overall, and he really came on the second half of the 2025 season. And Greenard alludes to that. He said that Dallas Turner is, quote, a bottle of explosion. He's going to be 23 this year, should start to really kind of come into his own, you'd think. Um, Greenard said that because Turner is still young, that he doesn't know what he doesn't know, and because of that, Greenard said that he's still going to talk to Greenard, or Greenard's still going to talk to Turner, even though he's going to be playing for Philly. He's gonna say, he said he's still going to tell him like, hey, if you want to get to this place, you got to finish X, Y, and Z first to get there. It was really cool. I've always liked Jonathan Greenard. He's always been a very underrated interview. He'd appear on KFan with a Power Trip morning show during his time with the Vikings, and was a very outgoing personality. So super cool that it doesn't seem like there's a ton of ill will between him and Minnesota. So it seems like it might have just been, just kind of, time for a move. It kind of felt like this is going to be happening at some point, especially with how versatile Andrew Van Ginkel is. It never really felt like Van Ginkel was going to be the guy that the Vikings were going to kind of move on from. And with Greenard, with a new contract demand, he moves out, but hopefully the Vikings are able to seamlessly replace him with somebody cheaper and a lot younger in Dallas Turner. Turner did start 10 of the 17 games that he played in last year. Hopefully he's able to make us kind of forget about Jonathan Greenard and start to really live up to that 17th overall pick status from a couple of years ago, because we need the Vikings to start having a lot more draft picks, not just from this current season, this 2026 class, but we also need guys like Dallas Turner to kind of grow into their own, and kind of give this team a more influx of young talent moving forward. Sounds like Jonathan Greenard believes that Dallas Turner is ready to take that step. So we're going to move on to ESPN. They talked about their power rankings, went through their power rankings, and they are the latest national media outlet who are not fans of the Vikings. They ranked the Vikings 28th in the power, or no, they did not rank them in 28th. They ranked the Vikings 24th in their ESPN power rankings. But this is only a couple days after NFL.com ranked the Vikings 28th in their power rankings. So a little bit better. That's still bottom 10 of the league, which is not very good. Kevin Seifert, he was the one, he covers the Vikings. He's on the Vikings beat if you don't follow the Vikings that closely. But he's very tuned in with the Vikings. He did the blurb for the Vikings there. He highlighted how the Vikings, really went aggressive at defensive tackle in the draft, but obviously he highlighted Kyler Murray's addition, how he's going to be expected to elevate that quarterback room. Also highlighted the Carson Wentz signing, that in case anything goes wrong with Kyler Murray, the Vikings want a solid backup option. I'm still convinced that if Murray were to get hurt, it's going to be Carson Wentz, not JJ McCarthy, coming off the bench. And just the way Seifert says this, it makes me believe that this is kind of what the Vikings' expectation is, that it's going to be Wentz, unless McCarthy just really, really takes off, this offseason, really shows a lot of improvement. I still don't see McCarthy starting, but I guess McCarthy could be QB2. I know that might sound insane to some people, but I think that the Vikings really, really want McCarthy to take a step back, really, really hone in on everything that the team is expecting out of a quarterback. Really just see, okay, this is how you go about your day. This is how you go about your week. This is how you go about your preparation. This is how to be professional. This is how to be mature. So instead of being like a play away from entering the game and maybe being antsy about that, if you're QB3, you're able to usually able to really sit back and absorb everything without even, the slightest hope or expectation that you're going to be entering the game at some point. So, a couple other teams in the NFC North, the Packers were seventh, Bears were ninth, and the Lions were 11th. So this has the Vikings like trailing way behind. We've seen this before where the Vikings get kind of overlooked, maybe rightfully right now. Because they just haven't made like a ton of splashy moves this offseason outside of Kyler Murray. But that like 2 years ago, nobody really expected them to do anything with Sam Darnold, and obviously ended up going 14-3. And we saw what Sam Darnold did last year, so maybe it shouldn't have been such a surprise. But uh, maybe without all the weight of the expectations. Had a down year last year, not a lot of expectations. Use that to kind of fuel the team throughout training camp. I know that Kevin O'Connell, as do most NFL coaches and football coaches in general, like the us against the world mentality. So, um, just another bulletin board material thing to strive for. Vikings uh, clearly projected to be fourth in the NFC North this year by ESPN and damn near every other media outlet out there. This is unrelated to the Vikings, but I did find it fascinating that the NFC West had the top two teams in the league. They had Seattle number one, Rams number two, which I can't really argue with that. Anybody that watched the NFC Championship last year, just it was pretty obvious whoever won that game was going to dominate the Super Bowl. And then the AFC East had the two worst teams in the league. The Jets were 31 and the Dolphins are 32. So I can't really argue that either. I think the Dolphins are going to be horrible. I think the Jets might be able to might be able to force an interception or some point on defense this year. So that's going to be very intriguing as well. So finally, I went over another Jake Golday tape. I had him against Baylor in this latest one. Yesterday's episode, we highlighted his game against Kansas and how they were playing against Jalen Daniels, who is a very mobile quarterback. And I kind of thought, I kind of estimated, guessed that part of the reason he was a little bit more passive, that is Jake Golday, linebacker, Vikings second round pick this year out of Cincinnati. The reason that he was so passive in some regards, and probably 60-65% of this game, was because he was kind of the spy, pseudo spy on Jalen Daniels, just kind of keeping an eye on him, kind of setting an edge, just trying not to allow these running lanes to be created for Daniels. This game against Baylor, complete opposite. Against Sawyer Robertson, who is a much more, traditional quarterback, Golday was a lot more aggressive. In his pass rushes, but he was like before. He was lined up all over the field, middle linebacker, edge rusher. He had a 66.9 PFF grade in this game against Baylor, credited with one pressure, one sack, and he allowed two of three passes to be completed for 21 yards and a touchdown. I don't know about the touchdown. I mean, it kind of went by him, but like it was zone coverage, and I don't know. I think they just credited it to him because he was kind of maybe the closest guy to. So I thought that was a little unfair, but uh, at that point they were also up 24-0. So take that for what it's worth. They were playing with a lead as well, which is another reason they were able to have Golday play so aggressively in this. I just love how he takes on blocks, and he just is noticeably bigger than like a lot of offensive linemen because he's 6'5". So even if it's not playing weight wise, like he just stands taller than like several of the interior offensive linemen. I like that when he plants his foot to just rush downhill. It is very impressive. Still kind of gets out of position a little bit. Could take some better angles to kind of close on some plays. But man, I really like some of the things does. After that touchdown, he was kind of out wide. They Baylor ran like a really kind of cool trick play where they had like four guys lined up all the way near the sideline, and they tried running a screen, and Golday kind of sniffed it out. He kept just kind of scraping down the line of scrimmage. It ended up being a quarterback sneak, or quarterback scramble, and he ended up being part of the tackle scrum that stopped the 2 point conversion from happening. So I thought that was cool. Um, he also ended the game with a pass breakup. It was like 40-21 at that point, so the game was already over. But it was like the final fourth down. Ball got into the receiver's hands, and Golday just like jarred the ball loose from behind, forcing incompletion. Game over essentially at that point. So I really like how he plays. You can kind of see how this isn't going to be a traditional middle linebacker, which I mentioned this yesterday. We aren't accustomed to just really traditional anything in the Brian Flores defense, but he's just already lined up all over. You don't really have to project it completely without seeing it. Like, he is a middle linebacker. He is an edge rusher. He is in the slot. At one point on the edge, there was a screen pass to his side of the field. It was like, oh, he's going to Andrew Van Ginkle it. He's going to gink it. And he wasn't able to, intercept it like Van Ginkle is so good at. But I mean, that comes with experience, that comes with instincts. We have talked about how his instincts in the passing game still have some work to do. But I thought he moved a little bit better in this game as well. Still a little clunky at points in pass coverage, but man, when he runs downhill, when he blitzes, when he's taking on blockers, I mean, when he is able to let loose, I mean, you can see and kind of feel that impact. I kind of keep going back to the Vikings at Detroit game this year, where Eric Wilson, among others, but especially Eric Wilson, really wrecked that game because of his physicality and blitzing. Well, there goes my power right there. And anyway, we're gonna have to cut this short. And yeah, so his physicality is impressive. So we're just gonna call it good after that. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll tune in next tomorrow and go over the next Vikings draft pick, Dominique Orange tape. Maybe get an update on edge rusher or wide receiver 3. Skull Vikings, and charge your batteries and stuff, guys.